Hey, what's up? This is a tutorial video to show you how to do a Joomla installation on a local environment. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use a WAMP server. So the first thing to do is head over to wampserver.com and go and download WAMP and go through the steps of installing it. So we'll hit this button here, download directly. Now what WAMP does is actually emulates a web server on your local computer so that you can work on websites and make changes to websites without having to commit anything to the internet. So that way it's all kind of kept on your personal computer away from the internet. It's just a really fast way of doing website development. And when you finish building your website or making your changes, you can then push those files up to the internet, up to your web server online. Now, I already have WAMP installed on this computer, so I'm not going to go through the steps of installing WAMP. So I'll just cancel this download. And if we open up a file explorer and go to our C drive, so I'll just head over to my computer, C drive. Once you've installed it, you'll see that there is a folder called WAMP. And inside that folder, another folder called www. And this is where we keep all the websites on our WAMP server. And as you can see here, I've got a whole bunch of websites. Now, for this example, I'm going to create a website called test. So I've gone ahead and just created a new directory in that folder. And I've also downloaded Joomla from the Joomla website. So I'll just quickly jump over to Joomla. This is the Joomla website. Pretty easy to download the latest version. Just hit the download button and download there. So I've actually already downloaded that and I've just stuck it inside this new folder called test. So that's in C drive, WAMP, www, the name of the website, and I just dropped in Joomla. Now you'll see that this Joomla file, this installer is a compressed file. So let's right click it and hit extract here to extract all the files. It's fairly big. There's quite a few files inside Joomla. So that's just going to take a few seconds to extract. Okay, so now all the files have extracted and you'll see there's a whole bunch of files there. So we'll come back to this a little bit later on and get into the nitty-gritty of Joomla. But now let's actually begin the installation on the WAMP server. So what we've done so far is download Joomla, put it into our directory and extracted all the files. Now let's get it up and running and install it. So I'll go back over to my web browser, and to access WAMP, all you need to do is type in localhost, one word, and that will take us to the WAMP homepage. So what we're seeing here is a list of all the websites on WAMP, and they actually correspond exactly to the websites that I have in my WAMP directory here, those ones that we saw only minutes ago. Now the difference is if I was to click these links here, that will actually take me to the website, that will launch the website. So because our website that we're setting up here is called test, and that was over here. That's where we have our Joomla install. You'll see it's also in this list here. And if I click that, that will launch the website. Now, a little tip though, because we're working on WAMP, we need to just put in the words localhost before the name of the website. So I've got localhost / the name of the website. In this case, it's test. And straight away, the Joomla installation page pops up. That's because we extracted the files and it's ready to go. So let's give our Joomla site a name, which I'm just going to call test. And we can forget the description, but over here, we need to put in some admin details. So I'm going to put in my email address. My admin username, which I like just to keep as admin, and then I'll put in a password. And I'll need to enter the password twice. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit the next button. And now it's asking for database details. So because Joomla is a database-driven website, a dynamic website, we need to create a database. So let's go back to WAMP. So we'll open up a new browser. We'll type in localhost to go back to WAMP. I've still got Joomla open up in another tab so we can go back and forth a little bit. So here we are in WAMP, and to create a database, I need to access PHP My Admin. So I can hit this link here. This is the part of WAMP that manages all the databases. And I've got a bunch of databases here. You have to create a database for every Joomla website needs its own database. So there's a few there that I've already set up for previous projects. I'm going to hit the databases button and give my database a name. So I'll call this one testdb. The name can be anything. It's now been created, so let's click into that database. Here it is here. And now we have to create a database user. Now, it's actually a good idea to make a note of the database names and the usernames and the passwords. So I'm just going to open up a text file and write some of this information in. So our database was testdb. So let's create a user. So we now have to hit privileges. There's a bunch of users. Let's hit add user. And we'll create a new user. So I'm going to call this one test user. The host name, in most cases, well, for WAMP, it's always going to be localhost. When you go through these steps on the actual, on your own web server, on the internet, it might be different depending on your hosting. And a password as well. In this case, I'm just going to call it test. Retype my password. Okay, I'm going to make notes of those login details. So I've got my database, it was testdb, my user, what was that? That was test user, and my password was test. Okay, so let's go back here. So we've got test user as the username, host was localhost, database was test, and let's give it all privileges. So I'm going to hit check all in this global privileges section. Hit the go button down in the bottom right. And it's saying that a new user has been created, the test user, and at localhost, it's been granted all privileges, and everything is working there. So that's great. So we can leave this page now and go back to our Joomla installation and enter in those details. So what do we have here? We've got the database type is an MySQL. You'll see that I've actually got MySQLi. That's fine. Either of those will work. The host name was localhost. The username, well, the username was test user. So I'm just going to copy that information in. The password, that was test. And the database name was testdb. So I'll just paste that in as well. We can leave the prefix, and with that information entered in, let's hit the next button. That's now created a database, an empty database. It's asking me to actually install some sample data. I'm just going to leave that as none and hit install. So it's creating a database, and that will usually take a few seconds. Great, so now that Joomla has been installed, the next thing we need to do is remove the installation folder. So just to explain what that actually means, I'll just bring over my File Explorer. These are all the Joomla files that we extracted earlier on. You'll see one of them is called installation. Really important that we delete that folder. Otherwise, any scrupulous hackers could come in and actually get into our Joomla install quite easily. So luckily, Joomla does that with this button here. So remove installation folder. It's now been removed, which means it's actually automatically deleted it from our list of files here. And we've got two options here. We can view the site or we can view the administrator panel. So I'll just quickly view the site. There's our Joomla website. It's a blank template at the moment. Doesn't look very groovy, but it's there. It's working. Now, to get into the administrator side of Joomla, all we have to do is go to our website, which of course is localhost/test. And then all we have to do is put /administrator at the end of it. And then enter in our username, our admin username, which in my case was admin, and my password. Now, it's easy to get those logins confused because we've actually created two sort of sets of logins. We've created a Joomla admin login, which is what we're using now, and earlier on we created a database and a user and password. Now, that's actually separate. That's nothing to do with this Joomla login. So this is our login to get into Joomla, and this one here was our login to create a database. Two very separate things. Great, so I'll just hit the login button. And this is Joomla. This is the back end of Joomla. So I'll go through all these options in a separate video, but if you've followed these steps so far, then you should have a successfully working Joomla install on your wamp server. Thanks for watching.